How to
Future-proof
your comic by
MossCharmly.
MossCharmly.
In this segment, we're going to talk about raster layers and vector layers and how they influence the future-proofing of your comic book. First, we're going to talk about vector layers.
Yes, vector layers are like drawing with geometric shapes.
It's nice.
Yes.
I like geometry.
They're perfect for inking your comics.
Inking with vectors leads to future-proofing your comic, and here's 2 reasons why.
Yes, inking with vector layers, it allows you to scale your drawing to any size without losing clarity.
That's awesome. So you could create an image using vector layers, and you could stick it on the lapel of a shirt, or you could stick it on the side of a bus, or a building for that matter.
Yes.
And you do not lose the clarity. Yeah? Awesome.
Pretty much. That's what leads to the second reason, which is it gives you the option to scale your art to put it on merchandise for future products.
Perfect.
Yes. So
That's pretty much what we said.
that cup you're wanting to make.
That was awesome, right?
That
is.
shirt
I
you
want
want.
that. You can do it.
You can do it.
That's important. That's wonderful. That means so like even if you're using an A4 format presently and you want to change to a more manga, format, that means that you can actually take the ink and the artwork that you've done, the illustration you've done, and alter it to fit the format necessary for that specific publication.
Yes, you can do
That's
that.
Fantastic. Okay. And now we're going to talk about raster layers.
Yes.
Right?
Rasters.
Rasters are pretty much painting with pixels. And that's pretty much what you're going to see people who are creating amazing illustrations and wonderful digital paintings. They're using more of a raster layer because it'll blend well. The brushes are just gorgeous. I mean,
Yes.
You've seen tons of people on YouTube and they're absolutely gorgeous in what they do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's perfect for shading.
And coloring your art.
Wonderful.
So coloring and shading your comic, rasters are fantastic. So both vectors and rasters are good. There's neither better than the other. It really helps to use vectors to ink your comics for future proofing.
And you can still paint
Yes.
like under those layers.
Yes,
right? So
using rasters.
Yeah, wonderful. So you can color and shade with those rasters. Excellent. Perfect. So it's basically, using forward thinking to keep your work more relevant in the future.
Yeah.
Perfect. So the longer you can maintain a relevance with your work is the essence of future proofing.
Yeah. And formats will change and venues of your artwork have not been conceived yet, so this helps.
Think ahead.
Yes, this helps you think ahead.
Creating both standard and scrolling comic formats is going to be the focus of this segment on future-proofing your comics.
Perfect. Creating both a standard and scrolling comic gives you more options.
It is easier to change a standard format layout of a comic into a vertical scrolling format. Doing both formats doesn't limit where you can share your stories and artwork.
Yes. Some people may have preferences, and that's great, of doing, wanting to do a scrolling or standard.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean you're limited to just one format, which is even better when you do both.
Exactly. Vertical comic format is excellent for sharing on social media right now. It is truly easier to read a vertical comic or to read a comic right now with your phone because it's in your hand most of the time. So that is convenient. Right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Creating a standard comic layout allows you to eventually print your book with a print-on-demand service. And you can also, give these to people who may be in a Patreon or people who really appreciate your art and you want to give it as a gift. Or, you yourself would like a hard copy of that. And that's really a nice thing to have.
Yeah. Sharing it as a PDF and having that and to give that is wonderful.
Exactly.
So you can, eventually give your fans a book to have, or, once you get your following, you'll be able to give them a digital version and you yourself will have one.
And then you'll have that digital backup.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, give and take. And that's perfect. So
Perfect.
creating a dynamic layout for standard format comics is going to be the focus of this segment. Creating a dynamic layout lets your storytelling really stand out, both standard comics and scrolling comic formats. Building a standard comic first using the rule of thirds is paramount with creating a more action-oriented visual. If you're actually able to create that dynamic scene where you have your protagonist going in for some sort of vengeful move, people are going to actually know where the action's coming from. It's going to set the mood and the tone. It actually visually tells the story without even doing it on purpose, but it really is on purpose, because the rule of thirds is very, very, very important to actually telling a story. It's used in cinematography, it's used in illustrations, it's basically very much part of the golden spiral and the perfect proportions. So when it's used correctly, which is easy to do once you really just say, okay, I'm just going to put something here in this quadrant, and then I'm going to put something here in this quadrant, everything sort of fits into place. Like all the little pieces perfectly fit, so it naturally will create a more dynamic layout, which leads to a better way of telling a vertical story, which means that you can actually sort of know what you're going to do ahead of time. You sort of know where the story's going, because how a viewer sees a standard layout comic is very different than how they see a vertical comic. With vertical comics, the viewer is more interactive. So with standard formats, a dynamic layout is very important to have. Use the rule of thirds.
The next segment of future-proofing your comic is directing your audience's attention. Here's where you have your panels from your standard comic. And now you can really go crazy with this by using them for the scrolling. You can become a cinematographer now. It's like an animation when you use your panels for scrolling. You can really go crazy. So you can spread the panels further out, further apart, and it brings more drama and longer anticipation. It really just draws their attention, and it makes you excited what's going to happen next. So it just emphasizes the drama, the action, and the motion. You can also take your panels and you can really just emphasize it even more by blowing that picture up and using it multiple times throughout the scene, like a close-up of a face and eyes, or looking in a certain direction. And using the scroll, it will just ping-pong ever so slightly and almost look animated sometimes. It's really amazing what you could do with a scroll comic. So have fun and just enjoy yourself by directing the audience's attention.
Excellent. In this segment on future-proofing your comic, we're going to talk about saving your work. It's about making duplicates and saving it on external drives. First, we're going to talk about saving your work as separate files.
Yes. Saving your comic as a work in progress with all of your separate layers is necessary.
Definitely. Save it before you're done.
Yes.
Pretty much, right?
This gives you the chance to duplicate the pages and use your images.
Also, saving your comic as a PSD file is important, because that is the most common format of saving images presently.
Yes.
It works across multiple platforms, multiple programs, and in the future, there may be other programs you'll use, or you want to go back to other programs, and we presently know that this is the most common format that is translatable in so many different programs.
Yeah, it's the current universal file format. It's a
That's
PSD.
Very well put.
And you can open them on most other programs.
Yeah.
So save your comic on whatever proprietary program you're working on and as a PSD.
Definitely. So definitely save it as the proprietary format on the program you're using.
Yes.
That's also important.
Yes.
Excellent. Cool. Did I say that twice?
Yes.
I said that twice.
Don't worry, we could edit that.
You got it. You know what to do.
We've got this.
Save it and save it again.
Yes. Next on doing this is saving your work on an external device. This is super duper 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 important.
Very important. This may sound a little crazy, but it is an extremely important thing to do. Making duplicates of your comics and saving them on an external device isn't just saving it on one type of a device. Like, you have to understand there's solid state drives, and then there's moving drives, or HDDs and SDDs. So you've got solid state drives, and then you've got the hard drive systems, which we're all, aware of and have known for many years. But they save things very differently. People don't really understand that SSDs do have a shelf life, and HDDs, or ones with the magnetic disks, have a much longer lifespan, and in fact will keep your images, your files, and in the correct formats for a much longer period of time without corruption.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
No, that's actually everything we need to talk about. With and there are other ones like NASs. You were the one to introduce me to a NAS.
Exactly. The most important thing that I will say is that people look at their computer almost as if it's a storage device.
Yes.
It's really, right?
That is, save your work on an external device because, okay, here are two real reasons. It will save you if anything happens to your computer, because your computer is not meant to be a saving device. It's meant to help you do the work of your projects. And two, it will make your computer last longer.
There's so many different saving devices out there, and so many different prices. So definitely, whatever is your budget-specific device, definitely get duplicates. Backing up your work doesn't mean saving it on one drive. You do have to actually save it on 2 drives. Because if one drive fails, you still have another one. And that's where having a NAS comes in. A NAS is a network attached storage, or they do actually have external hard drives that save automatically duplicates on 2 separate drives inside of one big box. There's plenty of companies you can look up that are very, very good at what they do. And they're, very trustworthy. But definitely save your work. It's so important,
Get what drive works best for you, and you can always upgrade.
Always. And you can always save.
Yes! Always save your work. We have learned all of these lessons the hard way, and we really wanted to share what has helped us throughout learning.
What we had to find out.
Yes.
What we had to learn. We've lost so much images. We've lost so much work. It's really, really hard when you lose years of work sometimes and you don't realize it. So it's all about being safe. And we really, really just want to help everybody out there and make sure that they, don't have to make the same mistakes we have. So, yeah.
So thank you for listening and
hanging out, basically.
Yeah, like and subscribe if you enjoy and if it helped you. Please leave a comment.